Hello and welcome. It is perfect timing for this webinar because we are just 2 days shy of National Oatmeal Cookie Day. I know it sounds cheesy, but I've been waiting for a National Cookie Day since this thing kicked off, and unfortunately the regular one doesn't happen until December, so I had to make do. In the spirit of our 10 tips we're going to share today, I wanted to talk some numbers and facts. So there are 7 billion on average chocolate chip cookies consumed each year. I have no idea who's counting these numbers because we all know we've told a little white lie or two about our cookie consumption. This is our 4th webinar in our 5-part webinar series on the cookieless world, created to educate our advertisers and partners on the changes soon to come in the online advertising landscape. And finally, Sojourn is gearing up to celebrate our 14th anniversary in travel soon. So what that means is we've seen a lot of changes in the space over the years, and we've overcome them all. And we intend to do that again very simply for our customers this time around too. So the bottom line is we've all got a common goal. We're going to eat those cookies and stay educated on third-party cookies sunsetting in 2022, and that's exactly what we've done throughout this series. Webinar 1, we dropped all the knowledge about what third-party cookies do and why they're going away. And it's really going to benefit advertisers in a lot of ways. If you haven't seen that one yet, check it out. In the second one, we walk through Sojourn solutions to bridge the gap that third-party cookies going away will leave and how you can activate them. In webinar 3, we had a great session on retargeting in the cookieless world, which brings us to our 4th installment today, 10 tips to prepare for the cookieless world. So this webinar is short and sweet, pun intended. We are going to have no Q&A today. So after a very brief recap of the important things you need to know to understand the meaning behind the tips we're going to share today, we're going to get right down to the meat of it and walk through those tips. The good news is we've got an awesome Q&A panel coming up on our 5th and final webinar in the Cookieless World Series, and that is happening on May 12th. We're going to get viewpoints from several experts in this space, like so far Revenate and G-Commerce, based on all the questions that have been shared with us over this series. So before Kurt takes over, I'm going to give you a quick run through about what Sojourn does in the travel space and why what we have to say today can help travel marketers. If you are a repeat joiner, you can probably say this right along with me. Sojourn is a global travel data company, and we specialize in highly targeted online advertising campaigns for hotels, attractions, destinations, and other tourism businesses. Like I mentioned, we've got nearly 14 years in travel, and we built relationships with thousands of global data partners, and they give us access to some really rich data. That allows us to help find travelers coming to your market. We can introduce them to your brand and get them to learn more about your business via our multi-channel ad campaigns. That's across social, search engine marketing, meta search, display, connected TV, you name it, Sojourn does it. Our goal is simple. We want travelers to come visit you and book with you, and we can get in front of them wherever they are organically. Because we are ad tech company in the travel space, we put a ton of focus on learning about the cookieless impact and working with our major partners and industry leaders to understand their vision and craft solutions. So that is why today's presenter is perfect for this conversation, because he is the Chief Solutions Officer and he spends all of his time thinking about the right solutions that we've been able to share with you over this series. So now over to my fabulous presenter, Kurt, for the day. I'm going to steal just a little bit of your intro, so apologies in advance, but I actually started at Sojourn when Kurt used to be the SVP of our Property Solutions division, and that means that he's got loads of both sales and product experience, which is exactly what makes him perfect for this webinar, because he does a fantastic job of simplifying all this crazy stuff, no matter the audience, and we love learning from him at Sojourn. I know you've done loads of other cool things in the travel space, so I will pass it to you, Kurt, to share a little bit more about your background.
Okay, great. Thanks, Christy, and thanks for being such a fun host. My name is Kurt Weinsheimer. I run the solutions team here at Sojourn, which includes product, marketing, engineering, data science, and insights. So our team basically, comes up with creative solutions to the problems that you will find in, the travel tech space. And contrary to my dear colleague Noreen Henry's intro, I actually have the best job at Sojourn because our team is always problem solving, and you've got people coming from different backgrounds, different experiences around ad tech, around travel, to solve huge problems, including problems like cookieless, and turning those problems into huge opportunities. So I've been in the online travel and ad tech space for 20 years now. I've been at Sojourn for 8, and I've yet to get bored given the constant changes in these overlapping industries. And so speaking of change, there is a ton of change that's going to be happening in the industry as we prepare for the demise of the third-party cookie and the evolution of permission-based marketing. Nobody's got a crystal ball around how this cookie's going to crumble, but we at Sojourn have recommendations for how you can start preparing for the changes and put yourself in the best position to take advantage of what's coming ahead. In fact, we got 10 of those tips, so let's get into it. So first, in order to put the tips into context, let me do a quick refresh from our prior webinars and level set on what's changing and why it matters. So first of all, programmatic marketing. So this is online video, online display, native, etc. This is a really powerful way of targeting, attracting, engaging, and converting travelers. So first what happens is you're using data and travel intent signals to understand who might be in market to travel. Major platforms then take that data, turn those into audiences, and then bid on those users online in real time. There are literally millions of advertising auctions happening every second of every day around the world, trying to get the right message in front of the right person at the right price. That auction gets won or lost, and then once that's won, the ad is served to that user. That user then will either buy or not buy. That performance or activity is tracked, and things go back to building smarter audiences, targeting those audiences, and then driving for conversions. And this entire process is really aided by the use of third-party cookies that help kind of connect those dots along the path. And so the situation is they're on their way out. So if third-party cookies add so much value and help so much in the online advertising space, why are they going away? So it's really 3 words that you should think about: privacy, control, and consent. So third-party cookies actually provide suboptimal support in doing their job. Consumers don't always know that they're being tracked, and they don't always know when or why they gave permission to be marketed to. And they don't really like that. I mean, we don't really like that. And so based on consumer demand for better privacy, better control, and better consent, major browsers are no longer going to be supporting third-party cookies. The largest of those, Chrome, will be in 2022. But Firefox and Safari have already started taking measures to decrease the use of third-party cookies. Now, it's important to emphasize, third-party cookies are going away. First-party cookies will still be alive, well, and kicking, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. And so then we have to ask ourselves, okay, third-party cookies are going away. Why do we care? Well, as you can see, if third-party cookies are a core part of making online advertising successful, then this is a pretty dramatic change. And if you think about the average hotel spends 40% of their budget acquiring and retaining customers. So cost-effective advertising is key. And digital advertising is now the predominant way that we engage with travelers around the world. And so second, with 87% of all consumers using browsers that will no longer support third-party cookies, today's targeting and tracking, those ways are going away. And so marketers have got to find new ways to understand, engage, and convert travelers online. So, or as this slide ominously says, campaign performance and direct demand generation will not work so well. So, hopefully you're feeling a little bit of that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because if you are, it means that you've been listening. But also, I think we've got to put this into perspective. And so the reality is the travel industry and the online advertising industry have gone through tons of change over the years. And so if you look at that timeline of change, there have been so many changes, and a lot of those changes, sometimes they're challenging, sometimes they're opportunities. It started with the movement of advertising from offline to online, and then it moved from desktop to mobile. And then you had in, kind of 2018, major privacy changes like GDPR, which were foundational in the impact that they had on advertising. But the reality is, throughout all of those changes, we've been able to figure out ways to solve those problems. Marketers always evolve to those changes, and platform providers always evolve to those changes. And so the good news is we've got time to prepare for this transition. And if we do it right, I truly believe that we can actually improve online marketing performance and really improve the whole world of permission-based marketing online. So if you fast forward and think about where we're going forward, hopefully as you look at this slide, looks pretty familiar, right? Because moving forward, travelers and travel brands will still be able to engage online in a meaningful way. But the data, the connectors, and the approaches are going to change. So third-party cookies are going to be replaced with cleaner, more consumer-friendly approaches like hashed emails, first-party cookies, and historical data. In addition, there are non-cookie-based channels like connected TV, CTV, search engine marketing, meta search, that are key to a multi-channel strategy going forward and really don't rely on cookies. And in fact, some of those are enhanced by the collection of hashed email, first-party, and historical data. So we're going to figure all this out. So now that we've done kind of that refresh of what's happening and why we need to care, let's start going into what you need to do to prepare. So this first section, what I want to talk about are tips that revolve all around data. What data you need and how you're going to collect that data. So as discussed in prior webinars, there are three main data sources that are going to help drive performance moving forward. First is hashed emails. Emails, they're like the digital passport for consumers, as somebody was talking about earlier. You need them to buy stuff on Amazon, to pass money back and forth on Venmo, and to confirm travel bookings. So hashed emails allow you to communicate with clients across channels, across devices. They also respect client privacy without sacrificing accuracy. And in fact, they're more accurate, making your interactions potentially more efficient. So therefore, hashed emails are critical for addressable advertising moving forward. Second is the first-party cookie. So these are the ones that you're already using on your site. They allow for collecting data that allows personalization without forcing a login to the site every visit. And then finally, historical booking data. This allows for a more robust profile by combining online and offline data so that you can better understand your customer and share that data in a meaningful way to get it activated. So let's jump into the first of our tips, all driven around data. So remember when I talked about the key to leveraging email is respecting privacy, control, and consent? First thing you need to do is get consent. So you got to get permission. So you've got to make sure that you have the rights to collect and use emails for marketing and advertising. Permission rules are going to vary by country and by region. They also vary based on what you're asking them to opt into versus opt out of. So you've got to respect your local markets and respect your customers' desires. So the great thing about this is happening all the time already. So it's not necessarily a heavy lift, it's more of a to-do. Just make sure that you've got all of your privacy policies intact and your consent terms intact. So are you getting that permission to run online advertising with your customers? So consent is key. So once you get that permission and you have the right to get their email, it doesn't mean that you're always going to get their email. So the good news is while customers value privacy, they also value deals and personalized experiences. And that gets us to tip number 2, incentivize. If you create a good value trade, they're going to give you their emails to use for marketing. We see this all the time in retail, and we're starting to see it more in travel. So examples of this will be 10% off with your first purchase, join a loyalty program, or get access to additional content. So these are all the incentive-based ways that you can be driving to get someone's email. There are also convenience ways that you can do it. So for example, if you think about the opportunities, you'll have people say, hey, give me your email and I can email you a receipt and then give you future offers. So that type of convenience trade can be really helpful for categories like attractions, where there's a lot of heavy foot traffic that then can complement your online traffic. And so the next kind of step in this is you actually have to hash those emails. So an email hash is a 32-character code that makes an email unreadable, okay? So this is unique to each email address, and the code cannot be reversed. So that makes it completely anonymous and undetectable if it gets kind of passed around. So the most common hashing functions you're going to hear about are MD5, SHA-1, and SHA-256. They sound kind of like spy agencies. But anyway, travel brands can either hash those emails themselves, so it just becomes another field in their database, or partners can hash those emails for them. So for example, at Sojourn, we automatically hash emails before they even get to us. Either on their website, they're coming through, we have hashing technology that then hashes it before it comes into our databases, or if we're getting data from a CRM, we're getting those emails again, coming in through the pipes. We hash that email before we even get it and are just holding that anonymized version of that information. So here's where you're really going to want to check with your platforms and your partners to understand kind of who and how emails are going to get hashed. And by the way, if you start talking to your partner and they're really not sure, you should probably find another partner. So if you kind of go, hey, so do you use SHA-256, and they kind of look at you like a deer in the headlights, run in the other direction, because they just aren't ready to help you move forward in this cookieless world. So speaking of added data and opportunities, here's a really light lift, and that's tip number 4, which is first-party data IDs. So as I said before, most web platforms are using this first-party cookie data, and they use it really to drive a personalized experience so that somebody doesn't have to sign in again when they come back to your site. So this is pretty standard. The key is now just to share that with your partners. So for example, at Sojourn, what we do is we use a universal pixel on our partners' sites and mobile experiences, and that collects the hashed email, the first party ID, and all of that search and booking data and those parameters kind of right out of the gate without the partner having to do anything on a day-to-day basis. So there are a lot of ways that you can make this really easy to collect. Okay, so now you've collected all that data. You've got to figure out how do you store it in a easy to understand way so that you can start understanding how and where and when to share that data. So everything's got to go into a database. Terms you're going to hear around this are CRM, CDP, or your PMS. And in fact, there are a lot of different databases that come with systems. Even a MailChimp or a Constant Contact will provide a database that's going to help you store a lot of this customer information. So the key here is to make sure that you've got a database that can handle both online and offline data. You can store that in an actionable way. So this is a really important thing to be focused on. It was important in the past, but even more important as we move forward, because it's with the fast collection and organization that then you can do smart sharing. So speaking of smart sharing, that gets us to tip number 6. And so the important thing here is one of the key pieces we talked about is sharing that historical booking data. So the way that this works is you decide what data you want to share because you've got that organized. We then, as a partner, will then ingest that data. This is pretty straightforward. It's either file downloads, it can be an API between the two, but it's typically something that's a batch process that's just happening on a daily basis. You set it up once and it just is happening all the time. The partner then will take that data, turn that into audiences, target, and report back. And again, the important thing to remember is between your data and the partner ingesting that data, either you're going to provide a field that is already a hashed email, or that partner is going to hash that email before they even get the data. So you're never passing PII, personally identifiable information, back and forth in an unsafe way. You're always doing things in a safe way. Okay, so now that we've talked about how you're going to collect the data and what data you're going to collect, and you've got it in a database that you can activate, now we're going to actually talk about activating in a cookieless world. And the key here is activating with full funnel multi-channel approach. And so we have to remember that we're still targeting travelers online in a desktop and a mobile environment. And travelers are going to have over 400 touch points for a single trip sometimes. So you need to be engaging with them all along that journey from dream to destination. And this is just as important now, and it'll be even more important in the future. The question is how you do it. And so typically when we talk about full funnel marketing in a travel industry standpoint, we kind of go to the bottom of the funnel, right? We're always thinking about, okay, I want to get people while they're planning and before they're booking. And so when we think about those typical channels that we use around multi-channel, you think about SEM, you think about meta search, where people are actively telling you that they're planning for a trip. So those remain incredibly important channels to be driving against. But you got to remember, they tend to be pretty expensive and can be very competitive. And so you still have to be expanding your channels and your tactics that you're using in order to engage travelers who are already in that plan and book phase. And remember, remarketing is not going to have the same power that it had in the past because it won't be as broadly usable as it was in the past. So you've got to look at other activities and other actions. So this is where things like Facebook, Instagram, your social channels come into play. You are going to be able to do some retargeting, but really what you're doing is you're building kind of in-market travel audiences using that hashed email data. You also can use your CRM data to find those travelers that have booked with you in the past, and now you see that they're planning again, and you can target those users online. And then finally, you're still going to have retargeting, and it will actually be more accurate than it was in the past. And that retargeting is going to be using hashed emails versus cookie data. So it won't be quite as expansive as it was in the past, but it should be more effective. So these are the key multiple channels that you need to be driving as you're thinking about connecting with consumers in a cookieless world when they're planning and booking. So now let's get to tip 8. And this is thinking about expanding your full funnel marketing idea and getting into that dreaming stage. And here you want to take advantage of those types of channels that can really engage the user. So these are social channels, again, like Facebook and Instagram. You do want to use search engine marketing because a lot of customers will start with a search, but you want to think about not only using branding, but unbranded keywords to drive that activity. And actually, in a cookieless world, a couple channels are actually going to be even stronger as you are collecting your hashed email. Because remember when I was saying that kind of emails are the new digital passport? Well, think about it. They're also that digital passport for connected TV. in order to watch anything on Hulu or Amazon Prime or other on-demand channels, you've got to use your email. And so now platforms like ours are able to connect those hashed emails with viewers in things like connected TV. So you can potentially expand your awareness marketing strategy using some tactics that you've used in the past and then new ones moving forward. The other thing that's interesting here is kind of what's old is new again. Contextual targeting will be really important, and that's basically advertising to people that are looking at content that is, aligned with the context of what you're talking about. So this is people that are looking at beaches in Hawaii, understanding there's a pretty good likelihood that they're going to be looking to travel to Hawaii. So you're able to target those users using contextual models that are quite effective. And then last is you'll hear things called cohort solutions. And this is where you're basically taking like-minded groups of people, similar to lookalike models. So you may take the core of your users, understand a block of users that are aligned with your interests or aligned with what you're trying to target against. You're targeting those users, but you're targeting them as a group. And so you're not necessarily getting the one-to-one feedback around the performance, but you're getting feedback around the performance of that cohort. So still very powerful and effective, more so when you think about awareness driving, so that you can understand, I targeted this group. Did they come to the site, or did they engage with the video as I was looking for? Harder as you get into the bottom of the funnel work and you really want to get that one-to-one understanding of, I targeted them, did they transact? But really effective at the top of the funnel. So as you can tell, there's a lot more that's going to be coming from machine learning, a lot coming from general modeling. So technology becomes an even bigger part of the puzzle as you're thinking about attracting customers in this multi-channel full funnel approach. And so, speaking of complexity, that gets us to tip number 9, which is work with trusted partners. Back in the day, you could build a lot of this stuff yourself. But today, you've got to have partners who specialize in the things that you don't. They need to be partners that can understand how to collect and organize data effectively, turn that data into audiences, and then activate those audiences across multiple channels, driving real-time performance and reporting in order to make those campaigns successful. So the world keeps getting more complex. And so if you're working with both smart, dedicated people on your team and trusted partners along the way, you're going to figure out how to best, store and share data. You're going to do that in a privacy-first approach, and you're really going to be able to activate that data in the most effective manner across all the channels moving into this cookieless world. So there's a lot to be done, but you're not alone in that struggle. And then tip number 10 is basically stay on top of this. First of all, the fact that you've been attending these webinars is a great first step. I guarantee you, a lot of your competitors have not even started thinking about this. In fact, we talk to people in the industry and are shocked at the number of people that aren't aware of the impact of the cookieless world and aren't getting prepared. So we know a lot more than we did a year ago, and we'll know a lot more next month. So the key is to just stay on top of this and keep moving. And I'll give you kind of a bonus tip number 11, and that is to get moving now. While 2022 feels far away and we're all focused on the recovery, it's really right around the corner. And so we have dozens of partners representing hundreds, probably thousands of hotels around the world that are already starting to collect this data, organize this data, and share it with us so that we can start getting testing, getting moving, getting learning, and getting ahead of this wave so that we can not only turn this challenge and survive it, but we can turn it into a great opportunity. So giddy up, huh? Okay, Christy, back to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kurt. As always, a very easy listen. And of course, across this series, one of the most common themes that we are seeing is how important it is to get your data house in order so you can take full advantage of that rich data that you are already getting, as Kurt said, as soon as possible. So that is yet another reason to attend our last, very sad I know, webinar in the series, as Revenate is joining, and they are CRM experts. So you will definitely want to hear their tips on getting your data house in order. Of course, our very own Kurt will be back to answer any of your burning questions. So with that final plug, we will see you all in 2 weeks for part 5. Be sure to grab some oatmeal cookies in the next couple of days to celebrate National Oatmeal Cookie Day. And that's the way the third-party oatmeal cookie crumbles. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Thank you.